And remember, no cursing, bro.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. And we are live. Welcome, family, to another show. Today I have Phil the Blerd Explorer coming live from South Korea. What's the you in South Korea, brother?
What's good, y'all? I'm Phil, Lord Explorer. I'm currently in the small coastal farm town called Uljin,
Mm-hmm.
Uljin. It's like I said, it's a small rural farmland, rice field, beach town. That's the
Mm-hmm.
best way to describe this place. With a nuclear
Nice.
power plant.
Nice, man. Yeah, when you hit me up, or I might hit you up.
Yeah, you hit me up
Yeah,
first, yeah.
yeah, and you told me you was in South Korea. I was like, "What? South Korea?" I had to interview you, bro, because
Right,
we don't really speak about South Korea as far as tourism that much. But
right.
as many people know, the Squid Games came out, and that kind of put a little bit of a light on South Korea a little bit. Uh, you
That's
know,
true.
yeah, it was a great show. So that kind of gave us that window. And then when we met, I was like, wow, man, you live in South Korea. So kind of give us a rundown. Well, we'll start from the beginning. What
Sure.
piqued your interest about moving to South Korea?
Well, for me, growing up, I always had interest in traveling the world, right? But
Mm-hmm.
during the late '90s, early 2000s. Now I did go travel. My first trip abroad was when I was like around 6 or 7. I was like when I went to Germany to visit my dad, who I think was stationed in the army at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But again, since I was 6 or 7, I usually don't count that, right? Because I don't remember much about that area where we were. But again, like I didn't know my fear about traveling abroad was, or I wanted to travel because I used to watch a lot of travel TV shows back in America. But the problem was I barely saw anybody who looked like me on TV who doing those travel channels, like the travel channels. And also, like, I didn't know a single black person who's traveled abroad that wasn't in the military. And this especially
Mm-hmm.
for, I think it's safe to say for many African Americans before like
Mm-hmm. Very
2015,
true.
2010, right? Most of
Mm-hmm.
us don't know any black person who's traveled abroad that wasn't military. You might
Mm-hmm.
have that one aunt or two who may have done so, but again, it's not very common.
Mm-hmm. Nah,
And in
that's for sure.
2015, yeah, in 2015, I was in my last semester of college trying to find a
Mm-hmm.
job, sending out resumes, nothing was sticking. And then on my university job board one day, I saw an ad about teaching English in South Korea. So I thought, okay, this would be a good chance to pay off student loan debt, travel the world, have some fun. Let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I moved here back in May 2016. I moved to Korea in May 2016. I've been here since.
Nice, nice. Okay, okay. And you've enjoyed it thus far?
Oh yeah, I mean, despite the bullshit moments, sorry, excuse my language, sorry.
You good? You
Uh,
good?
Besides some issues, I had some terrible jobs for the first few years, and I got some tea drop stories in that one. But afterwards, things got a little bit better and better.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about that for a moment as far as the teaching is concerned.
Yeah.
Do you like teaching in South Korea, teaching English?
Yes. So now, for the record, I'm a business major by trade. I'm not certified to teach, but I have looked into maybe getting my certification in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So I teach English, ESL as English as a second language.
Mm-hmm.
Primarily, I first started working at what we call hagwons, or after school private English academies, where parents will pay money to send his kids to learn English. So I did that for the first 4 or 5 years of Korea, and then back in 2020, I switched over to teaching in the elementary school, and I've been doing that since. I moved to my official first teaching, I guess, teaching elementary school this year in March 2021.
Mm-hmm. Excellent, excellent. Okay, okay. And you got everybody coming in the chat. Shout out every good
Yeah,
morning. Yeah, we up early today, man. We are up early.
yeah. It's
Um,
8:20 p.m. Korean Standard Time over here.
right. So what's currently going on like with the like are there any COVID restrictions going on currently right now?
Now this year, no, this month, excuse me, the Korean government decided to, because the population has been almost been fully vaccinated, high vaccine rates, right? So they've
Mm-hmm.
been trying to like open up, trying to like lower the restrictions. Of course, there are still restrictions, limited hours of what time business and restaurants can open up, stay out late and stuff like that. But um, right now, it's slowly getting back to somewhat being normal, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Seoul and the surrounding areas, that's been hit the hardest.
Mm-hmm.
But in May, back in March, April, back in spring 2020 last year, when COVID blew up around the world, Daegu was the epicenter in South Korea at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to live in Daegu before, so seeing downtown be empty, like like seeing the bars, restaurants that used to streets to be packed on the weeknights and weekends, seeing it gone, like no one's around. It was creepy.
Mm-hmm.
It was surreal.
Yeah, man, I know exactly what you're saying. I felt like that in Colombia when they started to shut things down, and you should see
Yeah, yeah.
usually it's packed, and you like it's not packed anymore, like a ghost town. It just show you the power of the pandemic. Really,
Right.
it was crazy, man. It was definitely crazy. So as far as flight times,
Hmm.
how far is the flight from? I guess you
South
just said
Carolina.
the East Coast, yeah, the East Coast to Korea.
I would say that's at least 15 plus hours, I would say, in
Mm-hmm.
total.
Mm-hmm.
That especially depends on where you're going to transfer. Like for me, for example, I flew from Columbia Airport to Atlanta to Seattle and then to South Korea.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I got here. Of course, it varies depending on what state you're in, what part of the country you're in, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, if you're in the West Coast, it's going to take less time. Maybe, but probably feel like a day trip, most likely.
Mm-hmm.
About 10 plus hours, I would say, on the West Coast.
Okay, and when you travel out there, man, I mean, do you see many black people out there in South Korea?
For sure, especially in the
Okay.
largest cities, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Seoul, Busan, those are two most popular cities in Korea before with foreigners and Koreans. So you see a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people there. Of course, you see army guys too, right?
Okay.
Now, depending the further you go out, the smaller the towns, cities you go away from, there you don't see as many black people. You might see other foreigners, mostly white foreigners, of course, but
Mm-hmm.
you don't see as many black people. Now, where I'm at right now, I'm like one, I think, of two black people in this whole city right now.
Wow, wow. And do they speak any English at all out there, or?
Yes, there's a good amount of people who do.
Okay.
But again, it's not. Don't be surprised. You don't find many Koreans who do speak English, especially
Mm-hmm.
in the smaller towns. So it's not as very common.
Okay, so you teach English,
Right.
correct? But do you speak Korean as well, or?
No, I mean I picked up some words, but Korean is a very difficult language to learn. Like many
Mm-hmm.
Asian languages. Now in terms of Korean, it's actually easy to learn how to read Korean. So
Mm-hmm.
if you want
Okay.
to learn how to read words to restaurants, when you want to come to Korea, you want to learn how to read the words and meaning stuff. Like that. Learning Korean is very easy, but learn how to speak it, that's a whole another challenge for English speakers. So that's going to take a
Mm-hmm.
lot of time and a lot of training if you want to be, I guess, elementary level of English, be able to have some like conversations in Korean.
Okay. Okay. And I saw you wrote a travel guide. We're gonna mention that a little later in the show as well. But the picture of it was like I saw you was I guess that was you in like an anime
Right.
because you're a tall guy. You said you about what? How tall are you?
6'7", 2 meters tall.
Okay, wow. So you walking around, and I saw. I guess you had people kind of looking at you. Is that the kind of like the
Right.
vibe you get when when you walking around as a tall black man in Korea, or people
Oh,
always
definitely,
stare?
all the time. Even in Seoul, I get that all the time too.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I mean, now to be fair, like even the bigger cities, right? They are used to some foreigners, most foreigners, some black people walking around. But again, when
Mm-hmm.
I walk through, then it's a totally different story. People will stop and stare all the time.
Right, right. And they say you play for the NBA or something like that.
Nah, I mean, some people do. As I teach students, compare me to as a LeBron James or NBA players or Obama.
They call everybody
But
Obama black.
yeah, pretty much. And then when 2018 came around, when Black Panther came out, it changed the game for every black person here in Korea because now we're being referred to as Wakanda teacher or Black Panther teacher.
It's Black
Or
Panther
they
teacher.
say pill teacher, Wakanda forever. I'm like, guys, stop. No. It's like I want to be upset. It's like at least I'm not being compared to a basketball or football player. I'll take what I can get at this point.
Right, right. And that's amazing, man. That's amazing. And how's the food out there, man? Is it kind of like do they have like strange foods or?
Not so much. No. Korean food is very delicious. Definitely
Hmm.
has a lot of spiciness to it. A lot of Korean food is pretty salty. Has a lot high sodium count. So if you're trying to
Hmm.
watch, if you have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, you definitely want to be careful with Korean food because a lot of it has pork, beef, uh, ingredients in the dishes, and a lot of foods. If you have food allergies, for sure. Like if you have food allergies, be very cautious in Korea because Korean foods have use a lot of nuts, sesame oil, sesame seeds,
Hmm. Hmm.
pumpkin seeds, and whatnot, and also seafood. Seafood, like a lot of fish sauce, fish paste in some of the dishes. So you definitely want to be careful. You can't eat if you can't eat seafood.
Okay, cool. And as far as the weather is concerned, because I used to
Sure.
have a South Korea friend. A friend of mine was a South Korean. They have all 4 seasons there, right?
Right. They have all 4 seasons. Yes, sir.
Okay. Is it get like super hot, or is it very similar
Yeah.
to America where it can get
I
hot
would say
and cold?
definitely America for some of the seasons. Summertime
Hmm.
is really hot and humid, like
Hmm.
especially in the city of Daegu because now for those who don't know, South Korea is both North and South Korea, the Korean Peninsula is notoriously known for its mountains. Like everywhere you go, there's hills and mountains everywhere. So, for example, in the city of Daegu, which is more kind of towards the middle of the country, it's surrounded by mountains. There's no ocean, no water to pull the breeze away from. So all that heat gets trapped in the city.
Hmm. Wow. Okay. And what's like the nightlife out there like? I mean, I know it's in a
Yeah, yeah,
pandemic right now, but usually,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
what's the
sure, sure.
nightlife at?
Yeah, yeah. So in the before times, before things got crazy, nightlife was and still is pretty crazy. Koreans love, as you know, has a massive drinking culture. So it's not common for employees, friends, families go out drinking after work, even on weekends. People will be hitting the bars, going to get some Korean barbecue, bar hopping and stuff. They have pretty huge club scene too. So Korean clubs are pretty popping. I never been to them myself. I just have an interest in that stuff.
Hmm.
But now during COVID times, things got crazy because like other countries, they've been shut down. The government say, "Hey, we got to shut you down temporarily, limited
Hmm.
numbers of people, people gatherings." And when the case number got so high, they had a quarantine. They raised a quarantine level,
Hmm.
pandemic level. So restaurants had to be closed by like 9 o'clock, I believe, or some point like that. And
Hmm.
you could only do delivery. You couldn't sit in a restaurant for a while. So of
Hmm.
course, like everybody else, a lot of businesses, a lot of restaurants, they don't really make a profit, right? They barely break even. So a lot of people shut down, unfortunately, during during those periods.
Okay. And as far as the exchange rate, is South
Yeah.
Korea expensive? Is it moderate or is it cheap?
I would say moderate, but compared to
Hmm.
Japan, it's cheaper to Japan for sure.
Hmm.
So it always does stress a little bit more. Now, when it comes to say that you're looking to do some shopping, definitely South Korea is not the place to be for electronics for sure. Electronics are a
Hmm.
lot more expensive. Even if you're looking to get the newest Samsung, LG smartphone, Apple smartphone, it's going to cost you more than it would be in the U.S.
See, I would think it would be cheaper out there.
Yeah, you would think so too. But also, for those who don't know, the South Korean economy is pretty much run by like 3, 4 conglomerate families. And for those who don't know, like Samsung family, the LG family, the guys behind them, right? So for
Hmm.
those who don't know, after the Korean War hit, Korean economy got decimated. The Korean government basically told the families, like, "Hey, listen, we'll give you all the tax cuts, we'll give you whatever you need, just get people work." So pretty much, they own pretty much all the industries, right?
Hmm.
So pretty much can control the prices, they control, have more leeway, say in terms of what products can be used. So that's why when you come to Korea, you'll see more Samsung owned products or Samsung owned apartments and such, compared to whereas America is like, if you don't want a Samsung or LG, you can always find other phones like a Google Pixel, whatever have you.
Hmm. Now, is Samsung based out there in Korea, South
Yeah,
Korea?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Samsung, LG, they're Korean-based companies. Yes.
And it's still expensive out there. You would think you could buy a Samsung phone for like a
Right.
dollar out there if they
You
actually
would think so too, but no.
right.
They control the prices, and especially like for example, this year when my TV started messing up, I had to buy a new TV. In my small
Hmm.
town, you would think like a 29, 30 inch would be like a little bit cheaper, right? No, it was much
Hmm.
more expensive. So,
That's crazy
so
because it's no export import tax on it or nothing like that. Like,
right,
electronics
because
are
they
pretty
could,
much
yeah,
expensive here, but we know why because they don't really build electronics in Brazil. They
yeah, yeah,
import them, so you have to pay that high import tax. Even if you do Amazon,
right,
the import tax is going to be like $200 on a
right,
$200
right,
product. You're almost paying dollar for dollar for import. So
right,
that's
right.
kind of
And I
strange
still
that
buy, yeah,
yeah,
I still buy stuff from Amazon all the time, especially when it comes to clothes, right? Because for me, for
right,
those who know, I'm a giant. So the
right.
only time if I wanted to buy clothes in Korea, I would have
Hmm.
to go to Seoul, to particularly to the place called Itaewon, which is like the more foreigner district, right? But the problem is, for me at least, that's like a 4 hour bus ride up there. I'm like, I'm not driving 4 or 5 hours just to buy some clothes on the weekend.
Hmm.
So
Okay. Are you familiar with Busan?
Oh yeah, Busan. Yes, I was actually there back in May doing a little scouting for my next book. I also
Mm-hmm.
been there a few times too. I did try to find a job out there, but I didn't make a cut for some of the after the job interview. So, um, but Busan is definitely the place to be. If I did live in another city in Korea, I would definitely move to Busan over Seoul in a heartbeat for sure.
Mm-hmm. And you say it's so too crowded, or?
Yeah, Seoul has like pretty much half the population lives in Seoul, both in terms of foreigners and Koreans as a whole. So
Mm-hmm.
it gets very expensive, very crowded, and as you imagine, during this pandemic, a lot of case numbers are in the surrounding areas. And of course, in terms of job competition for like English teaching, Busan is, I mean, it's still competitive, but it's not as competitive as Seoul.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And do they have like Airbnb apartments out there that guys can rent, or how does that
Yes,
work?
yeah. So of course, like Airbnb, you can find different apartments, hotel rooms, and such
Mm-hmm.
throughout the
Mm-hmm.
country too. So if you now hotels and motels, they're pretty cheap too. So you can definitely, if you, for those who don't know, Korea has like many Asian countries. They have like what we call, if you watch anime, you know what these about called love motels, love hotels, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
basically what they sound like, right? So for those who don't know, love motels, love hotels are basically like you pay depending on where you go, of course. You get what you pay for, of course. But these type
Mm-hmm.
of hotels are designed for couples to get intimate because most Korean apartments, Asian apartments, they're pretty thin, so you can pretty much hear almost everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's usually used for couples get intimate, for drunk businessmen, people who gone out drinking too much but can't get home because the train stopped. So you go to a hotel room, get it for the night, and just leave.
Okay. So wow, you said the walls are so thin that if you want to make
Yeah,
love, you got to go to a sex motel.
yeah, yeah. And
Oh
actually,
wow.
fun fact, like during COVID, because of the limited restrictions of people meeting up, right? People, many Koreans, they would go get a hotel room or some takeout chicken with a friend, go to a
Mm-hmm.
hotel room and hang out there all night because the place you can't go out anywhere.
Oh wow. And explain to us about the apartment process there. You was
Sure.
explaining to me earlier before we did the interview about the apartments.
Right. Now in terms of getting an apartment, it is possible. Now I work in South Korea as an ESL teacher, so one of the benefits, one of the well-known benefits of teaching in Korea is
Mm-hmm.
the employer pays for the apartment. So they give you
Mm-hmm.
employer private per apartment. Of course, the quality varies depending on who you work for, of course, and where you live.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I could get an apartment, but the thing is, the deposits cost a lot more money over here in Korea for a deposit.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, like say average apartment, like for a deposit, right, costs like well, say in USD, like $1,200, $1,300, $2,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here in Korea, it'll be between like 4,000, 5,000, or more, even for like a studio apartment in like a smaller city. Now, of course, you can get bigger places. They're mostly going to be in the older buildings, but you get more room, you get more space, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, deposits depends on where you live, what city you're in, and usually the more you pay into the deposit, you pay
Mm-hmm.
less in rent, the monthly rent, from what I've been told.
Okay. So if you put down $5,000 deposit, the rent
Right.
will be around what, $800 a month, or
We'll say I'm guessing maybe say 500, 600. Now, of course, Seoul gets to be a lot more.
shout out to Detroit. He said the deposit
Yeah,
is mad crazy. Deposit will
he's
be
right.
like five to
He's
ten
right.
thousand.
He's right. Especially
But
in Seoul
you
too.
get it all back though, right?
Right, you get it all back, of course. So when you leave, when you move out, so you get it all back.
Mm-hmm. That
Now
seems
it's
like
so
it's
crazy. Like, there's actually banks. Like Koreans can actually go to the bank and get a loan for a deposit.
that's what I said. It seems like it's kind of a hustle because don't the bank
Yeah,
charge interest off that loan?
most likely yes. I got some
Yeah.
Korean friends about that because I don't know too much about that myself. I don't personally have an apartment myself,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm in an
Okay.
employee provided apartment. So if I either when I complete my job, if I want to move somewhere else, start a new job, or get fired, I gotta leave the apartment.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And does that balance out well? Do they pay well to where you can?
Right. Now, one of the benefits, so for foreigners teaching English in South Korea, right? Like I said, the employer pays for the apartment, so you don't pay rent, but you do
Mm-hmm.
pay utilities. You're still responsible for utilities like gas, water, and all that jazz.
Mm-hmm.
And Or in many contracts, like you can get your own place and they'll give you like a stipend, a housing stipend to pay the rent. Now the
Okay.
stipend depends on who you work for. So sometimes you get like 300, 400, maybe 500, depending on who you work for, of course.
Okay. And that's per week or?
That's per month. That's per month.
And that's like for food and stuff like that.
Right. No, that's mostly going to be towards the rent though. That's for the housing stipend for since the school's paying for the rent for the apartment.
Okay. And let's talk about this, man. Like
Sure.
as far as the dating is concerned out there, do guys is there like Tinder out there or any
Yes,
type
Tinder,
of websites?
Grinder, all of them.
Okay.
From what I've been told from both gay straight folk, yeah, and from what I've seen to myself, like Koreans, they love black people. Let's put it like that. So it is possible to date. Now I was put like this: like dating a Korean woman is like dating a white woman in America. Most of them will date you, but most of them ain't gonna bring it home to me and mom and dad.
Okay.
Yeah, seeing what Young King Carter says, he's true though, but there is still a preference for more for lighter skin. That's more a cultural thing, like historical thing. Because for those who don't know, like in many Asian cultures, before colonization, there's always been a cultural desire to have lighter skin. Because historically, for those who don't know, having lighter skin in Asia meant like you had more money. You ain't one of those poor peasant rice farmers who's out there getting that darker skin. And a lot of the deities, not just in Korea, but also Japan, India, China, most of the deities, like the woman deities, tend to always have lighter skin. So that's why there's always been more of a preference for having fairer skin in Asia, and still to this day.
Okay. And do you see any type of darker skinned Koreans or like
Me, you see, it's a little bit darker too, but again, it's just there's still that stigma. There's still that people still talk shit to them because they think, oh, you must be poor because you got darker skin. And of course, in Korea, for me, like when it comes to job hunt teaching English, right? There's still always, in terms of demographics, there's a lot more white teachers than non-white teachers. Because there's the kind of belief that thinking, oh, if you're white, you know how to speak English, right? Because unfortunately, in many Korean cultures, even to this day, they still believe heavily in stereotypes, right? For example, if the person says they're from Africa, they think, oh, a Korean person might think, oh, that person must be a poor African, like you see on those TV commercials, right? Or if you see a white girl, they probably think, oh, she must be Russian, so she must be a thought, she must be a hooker or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So in terms of like when it came to job hunting, like for example, back in 2019, when I was looking for another job, I had a recruiter first time ever straight up told me, hey man, I'm having a hard time placing you because most of the jobs want a non-white teacher. They don't want a black person. Even though I may have similar or more qualifications than the white applicant. Now, that's not to say you can't find a job. It's still possible, but it will take a little bit longer as a black person.
So they associate you by being African more so than Black American?
Well, more than American, but again, just that stereotype, from what they see on TV and media.
Okay, let's talk about that. So, what do they are they on hip hop? Do they listen to hip hop there? Or?
Oh God, yeah. I got a couple of stories on that one. So imagine this. It's 2020. You walk in this, and this happens. So in Korea, when you walk into the street, especially in the bigger cities, right? A lot of this boutiques, stores, restaurants, they'll play music on the speakers to attract customers, right? So imagine you're back in 2020, walking down the street, having a good time, and then suddenly WAP is blasting on the speakers on outside. So it's not unheard of to hear uncensored rap music, with the hard N words and stuff like that being played in the stores, restaurants, gym, and of course a lot of hip hop clubs and stuff here too. Now, unfortunately, Korea is very xenophobic against all foreigners. So there are some bars, restaurants, clubs who say no foreigners allowed. Now, in some
means
cases,
black or white.
That means black or white. Doesn't matter. Yes, some of those white people are crying, oh, this is racism, this is discrimination, this isn't fair. And of course, black and brown folk, we're like, yeah, it kind of sucks, doesn't it?
Okay.
Yeah.
So
no, it's true.
So they are into breakdancing and all that stuff out there?
Oh, yeah, K-pop. Like a lot, you can definitely tell that it comes to K-pop, a lot of Korean hip-hop music is heavily inspired and stolen from American black folk music, black hip hop artists and stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like what's that quote from Paul Mooney? Everybody was, I'm paraphrasing, of course. Everybody want to be black, but nobody wants to be black.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And when you on dates with your, say if you dating a Korean girl, do
Yeah.
people stare or anything at you, or it's kind of like laid back?
Oh yeah, some people stare. Of course, you got some guys, just like white guys in America. Some people be giving those nasty looks. Some are
Mm-hmm.
just insecure, jealous, and so dudes like, what? Oh, see, all the foreigners taking all the good women, Korean women, that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Of course, again, I'm not worried about that. It's not something I don't care for because I'm
Okay.
hanging out, having a good time.
Right. And as far as the safety is concerned, how is the safety out there in South Korea?
Man, I'm safer. As any Black American say this, I'm felt more safer here in Korea than I did in the U.S.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because whereas in America, like I'm a giant dark skinned black man, like I'm the boogeyman to some white people in America, right? Like I'm the scariest thing in the world, despite everybody. If you ask anybody who knows me, I'm the least scary black man you ever seen, like the least stereotypical, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where here outside the U.S., especially in Korea, right? I'm just pill teacher. I am just a giant Pokemon loving teacher who lives in South Korea.
Mm-hmm.
Or in some cases, I had students, random kids yelling "Choco Wiggle King, Chocolate Man."
Mm-hmm. Okay. So there isn't like any type of petty crimes to look out for or anything
No,
like
I
that,
mean
or
there's petty crime, there's robberies, but it's pretty safe. Like you can, like for example, if you're in a cafe or a pizza room, right, and you go to the bathroom, you can leave laptop, you can leave phone, you leave wallet on the table, you come back, it's still gonna be there.
Nice.
So you ain't gotta worry about that. Again, I wouldn't try it as often, of course, because somebody's gonna call it. The thing is, compared to say in the West, right, there's a stigma of getting arrested, going to jail for the locals. So that's why you don't see it as many people trying to commit crimes.
Mm-hmm.
Because you basically shame the family, and also because if you get caught, go to jail, of course, it's gonna be hard for you to find a good paying job in Korea once you get out in Korea. So that's why you don't see as many crime. Unfortunately, there's still crime, and in some cases, one big rule: if you come to South Korea, right, if y'all listening, never get an altercation or a fight with a Korean, even if it's their fault and they started stuff. Like leave it alone, walk away, because more often than not, the police is going to side with the Korean, even if there's witnesses that can prove that can say, yeah, it was his fault. Just
Yeah, I've
don't
heard
bother with
that.
it.
I've heard that before.
I think it's the same thing. Can you say the same thing like that in Colombia too?
Yeah, it's pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. You don't want to, if you're in with a Colombian, you just kind of like you said, want to let it go. But the thing about Colombia, is it's a payola system. I'll put it to you that way.
Yeah.
So more likely you won't go to jail. It'll be something like,
Yeah.
hey, we got some ways to solve this. As a matter of fact, we got 300 ways to solve this. You know what I'm saying? You're like, oh, okay. So yeah, man. Now, as far as transportation, do they have like a Uber or anything like that out there?
No, David. No, unfortunately. So South Korea, in terms of public transportation, you still could get around. They got city buses, they got taxis, they got intercity buses like the Korean version of the Greyhound, so you still get around. Now, in terms of Uber and Lyft, they don't have those here because unfortunately, the taxi industry, the taxi drivers, they've been protesting hard against that because for a lot of them, it's a livelihoods, and taxis in Korea for both Koreans and foreigners, it's really a mixed bag. Like I think everyone in Korea can agree, like we're tired of these taxi drivers. Like we will gladly take Uber and Lyft over these taxi drivers because a lot of times both foreigners and Koreans, and one of my good friends, one of my good Korean friends, she told me this, that there were times that she'd been passed over by a taxi, even though it was empty, clearly empty, or they changed the sign on the car, So in some cases, some taxi drivers just don't want to bother taking you to a certain location because it's not far enough. They ain't make as much money.
And I mean, do you feel like is it safe to drive out there? Do they drive kind of crazy or
they kind of drive kind of crazy? Like you can still, it is possible for a foreigner if you have to get international license. If you have international license, you can go get tested. Take the driver's test here in Korea and get your own car, your own car and drive around if you want to.
Do they drive on the opposite side of the street there?
I want to say yes.
Okay. See, that would throw me off. That's why I don't really like driving overseas because that would, I'm so
Right,
used to driving on one side of the road. I might not be paying attention one day, or I might have a few too
right,
at the little local bar, and I'm on the wrong side of the road or something.
right. And same here. Like, and at the same time, it's like sometimes I wish I had a car just to get to me to a certain location, like going to the store real quick. But at the same
Hmm.
time, it's like I'm glad I have to pay for the car, and I ain't got to worry about gas, and got to worry about engine, like auto repairs and stuff.
You know what? I haven't drove in over a year, man. I don't miss it at
Yeah,
all. You know what I'm saying?
I don't either. It's like,
Yeah, it's
I
like,
mean, there's
yeah,
some moments you
driving is
wish you could
overrated.
go. Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like some moments you kind of wish to drive to go to McDonald's by yourself, so you ain't got to try to take the multiple buses. But at the same time, it's like, do I really miss driving? Trying to be stressed out, trying to make sure I don't get caught, make sure I don't get hit and stuff like that. Nah, I don't
Hmm.
miss it.
But they have like, do they have like a delivery app service, kind of like how we have
Yeah,
Uber
yes,
Eats?
yeah, they got Uber Eats, Yogi-O. There's another app too, I can't think of, but yeah, they do
Hmm.
have those too. They have a couple Uber Eats here. They're Korean versions of them, so you can still order food delivery, get to your apartment, to your school where you work at, or even to your hotel you're staying at.
Okay, cool, man. And I know it's getting late out there, man. You out there
Nah,
a
nah,
couple
nah. I
hours
got time.
ahead.
It's cool. I can talk all
Okay,
night, man.
okay.
It's good.
So let's talk about your book, man. I read a little bit of your book, man. It's very good. It's a travel guide to Korea, correct?
Right. Called the Black Traveler's Guide to Incheon, South Korea, and the Black Traveler's Guide to Daegu, South Korea. The
Mm-hmm.
Incheon book I actually wrote last year in 2020, and the second book I published this year, back in May.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. And the book is just telling people showing people around and where to go, right?
Right. Yeah. It's just like your typical travel guides you can find anywhere, but the difference is gives you more viewpoint from a black perspective, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What inspired me to do this book really was because, and really my content is really because the lack of black travel content. And this is
Mm-hmm.
you know um, during the mid late 2010s, right? Last year, a few years ago, I know when I started my content, it's like, okay, why aren't there more black travel content creators out here at the time?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's pretty limited. There's not that many, but it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
one of those moments like it's kind of like put up or shut up, you know. So that's why I started doing more Instagram posts and stuff like that. I have my own blog website, and what led me to make my first travel book was now for years I've been thinking of ways to make some money on the side. I was just gonna think of what has been done before that can make me
Mm-hmm.
stand out a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about it, I was like, wait, no one's really done a travel guide for black people. Yeah, this sold women, sold travel guides for women, for sold travel guides for men, right? But what
Mm-hmm.
about black people? Why has anybody done that?
Mm-hmm.
And I think I've seen one book for sold black women, and that's great. But I was like, okay, why not make it for the whole black people, for all black people to read?
Mm-hmm.
And kind of make a black travel guide for all black people to read. So that's why I got the idea. So last summer, I was kind of put on leave from my first job back in Incheon,
Mm-hmm.
because of the pandemic. So I spent the summertime going out, taking pictures, eating at different restaurants, taking notes, and it just came all together. I just published my first book in September 2020.
Nice, man. And those travel guides are extremely important, bro. Like
Yeah,
so important, especially when you really don't know what's going on, or you don't have anybody you can kind of touch bases with when you arrive there. Those are like a
yeah,
must have, man. Let me ask you
right,
this.
right. Sure.
Uh, going from America to South
Hmm.
Korea, that was like a really different type of culture. Did you go through any type of culture shock whatsoever when you first got there, like the first couple of months, or you
Oh,
adjusted
definitely.
pretty well?
Oh no. For one, when I moved to South Korea, I was 25. I just finished college. I finally moved out of my parents' place. So that's that first shock of finally moving out of your parents' place.
Mhm.
And also the shock of I'm going from a multicultural, diverse location like the USA to a
Mhm.
homogenous region like South Korea, where everybody looks the same. Everybody looks
Mhm.
different. I'm going to stand out hard no matter where I go in Asia. So of course
Mhm.
it took a while to adjust to that.
Mhm. At any point, did you like kind of like want to go back, or you was like, "No, I'm here to stay"?
Now I'm here to stay. For one, um, when Trump got elected, because actually when I moved out, like Trump got elected like that, a few months
Mhm.
later after I moved out to Korea. And also, I didn't want to just, cause even though I went to some bad jobs, bad situations, like I didn't want to
Mhm.
just throw in a towel and beg my parents for money to buy me a ticket home because I wanted to seem like I failed. So I said, okay,
Mhm.
I'm gonna keep going. And plus, there are other events, things I did, the people I met here in South Korea. It's like that's what kind of kept me going through it all.
Mhm.
Because I knew eventually I'm gonna get a better job in the future. So that's why I said, okay, let's keep going, let's keep going. And now, a few months, 5 years later, I'm in a pretty great public school teaching position where I'm at right now. Great pay. I feel, especially after last year, I got put on reduced salary. Like during the summer from July 2020 to February 2021, like I was stuck at home, not teaching. Like I lost a third of my salary. And so now that I'm back to making a full-time salary again, it's like, okay, I'm finally stable. I'm finally secure, feel secure again. So now it's like, let's really start looking at more ways to earn a little bit more money on the side, so I don't, fall into that same trap again.
Okay. Nice, man. Nice. I would say for me, Colombia and Brazil is definitely different, but I still kind of went through a little bit of culture shock, probably like because I've never been overseas for more than I guess 10 days.
Right.
So it's a big difference between, vacationing somewhere and
Right.
actually stamping
Staying
down.
there. Yeah. Actually living here. Yes.
Yeah.
Very.
And it's the little things that kind of like you just be like, you know what I'm saying? That kind of throws you off that we're so used to in America, like in Colombia and Brazil for the most part. They really don't have dryers. You know what I'm saying? Like everything is just a washing machine and you're just gonna have to air dry your clothes. It's a little stuff like that. You'd be like, yo, okay. So it's like, yo, why they don't have no dryers, man? Like, you used to your clothes being nice and crispy.
Exactly. I do miss that at times. Of course, there are laundromats here in Korea too. But yeah, like in Korea, like during the summertime, like it's great to just wash your clothes and just let them hang out dry because again, hang out, take haul your clothes to laundromat. But at times, I do wish I did have a dryer though. I won't deny that.
Oh man, yeah, most definitely because you're so used to like throwing your shirt in there. We guys, so we don't be trying to pull it out every time. We just throw it in the dryer and keep it moving.
Exactly. It's like, especially for me, because when I wake up earlier in the morning, usually to catch the bus to get to work. So yeah, sometimes I don't feel like iron my clothes. I do wish like I said, toss in the dryer and just get up and go.
What I do miss besides like of course my family members is
of course
the soul food, man. You know what I'm saying? Like I really do miss like, and I don't eat soul food every day. Of course, in America you can't, right? But just the Sunday evening, with your family, you got all the good food.
I agree. I miss that. I miss state fair food. I miss being able to buy clothes.
Yeah.
Be able to go shopping and knowing that they're going to have it in my size instead of wondering if I get to Seoul, will they actually have it in my size, which they probably won't.
You know what, man? That's why I will give the advantage to Brazil over Colombia because, I'm not that big of a guy. I'm an extra large, but and wear a size 12, but that's damn near impossible in Colombia, bro. Trying to find even their extra large is like our regular large, basically. Right. And then as far as the shoes, it's difficult to find anything over a size 10. So that's why I like Brazil more because they like more, I guess American size. So it's easy to find clothes here. That makes like a big difference in convenience, bro. Because I really didn't buy any clothes or shoes while I was in Colombia for a year.
For sure. Yeah, like I said, same problem. Like, I mean, there's this place called ABC Mart, so you might be able to find shoes in your size because I'm a US size 12. If I wear 13s, give me some extra room, right? So you might be able to. Sometimes I might get lucky, but again, no promises. So again, I just find myself on Amazon have it shipped here because it's just so much easier.
Is there like a
Go ahead.
Is there like a national dish out there that people can ask for when they go to a local restaurant or something?
Oh yeah, kimchi for sure.
Okay,
kimchi. Now again, kimchi is like a fermented cabbage and stuff like that. It's good depending who makes it, but again, keep in mind it has a lot of sodium in there, so watch out for that. If salt like many people, many Black African Americans, like a lot of us have family history of high blood pressure, high cholesterol. So so you definitely, if that's something you're worried about, you can still eat Korean food, but just watch out.
Now is this kimchi like more? You said it's cabbage. Is it like a soup or something?
No, I mean there is a kimchi soup, but it's like a fermented cabbage. So like there's I think there's actual like silo like the Koreans actually panicked when the prices went up for cabbage and stuff because kimchi is like a historical food. Like it helped so many people survive during the harsh times when people couldn't eat. Oh,
Okay.
right, D. Charlie, you're right. I got to tell you about the chicken here in Korea, man.
Mm-hmm.
But for those who don't know, South Korea is a fried. They love the fried chicken. Love it more black people,
Oh
and of course
wow.
we taught
Okay.
them that. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So for those who don't know, historically, during the Korean War, when African American soldiers, when they were making Korean, because Koreans had never really done fried chicken before, right? Historically.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was during the Thanksgiving and Christmas time. They couldn't have a turkey, so they have made fried chicken. And so the African American soldiers, they taught some of the Koreans how to make it. And now it's a multi-level. There's like franchises everywhere in Korea, both mom and pop and major franchises everywhere in Korea. Like you can't even go to small town Korea without finding a fried chicken place.
Man, I wish we would have capitalized that off that. You know.
Yeah. Nah, if you hey, so listen, they love their chicken for so much. In my book, Daegu book, I talk about how they have a fried chicken and beer festival.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so for those who know, they have the famous Daegu Chimik Festival. It's like a music festival, week long music festival with fried chicken, traditional Korean food, and beer.
Man,
I went back in 2019. It is fire. I will recommend this. It comes out every July, like every
mm-hmm.
July in the summertime. It's worth dealing with the summer heat in Daegu. Just go to that festival because it's so much fun.
You know what? I'm surprised that we got so many guys, especially at this time of the day.
Yeah,
You know, the morning because it's around morning of
yeah,
my
yeah,
time. That a lot of people are actually familiar with South Korea. You know.
yeah. Because I think to those in the audience who are typing this, correct me if I'm wrong. Were you guys either in the military or somebody who was military that came to South Korea?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just asking those in the audience, like, did you know somebody who was in South Korea, or were you in military in South Korea? Yep.
Let
See.
me they're coming in now.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
one says my father was in the Korean War.
Yep. Yeah. So, and aside
Military
from
station, six
military,
years. Yep.
yep. See. Actually, I got a friend of mine, me from high school. She's has been asking me questions. I think her and her husband they're going to be transferred over here to South Korea too very soon. I think Pyeongtaek.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, a lot of guys are saying military. A lot of guys are saying
yep,
military.
military same neither. So usually more often than not, I think for terms of African Americans is either because they're military or maybe somebody they know might be teaching English in South Korea. But most often than not,
Mm.
it's always military.
Cool, cool, cool. And speaking on that, man, do y'all
Yep.
hear anything about news dealing with North Korea, or they just kind of keep that isolated from everything?
Oh no, we hear about that. We'll be first to hear it. I remember a few years ago, I walked in my class one day, some of the students like were acting stressed out more than usual. I'm like, okay, what's going on? And
Mm-hmm.
it was during the times when the North Korea started doing those missiles, missile firings, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I tried to calm them down, saying, hey, don't worry, they're not stupid enough to attack, try to start an invasion.
Mm-hmm.
Now I put it like this: unless you see South Koreans panicking and running away, you're good. You ain't got to worry.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
now,
Well, man.
sometimes we get those emergency notifications on the smartphone, right? But
Mm-hmm.
again, unless you see Koreans running away, panicking, then you just walk away, just go about your day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, bro, I appreciate you coming on the show, man. We got the link to your books in the description. We also have your social media down there as well for any guys that want any additional information about South Korea. Any closing thoughts?
Yeah, yeah. You want to see my books? The Black Trousers Guide to Incheon, Incheon, and the Black Trousers Guide to Daegu, Daegu, South Korea. The ebooks are available on Amazon right now. You can follow me on both Instagram and TikTok at the Blerd Explorer. So I do post TikTok videos and also of South Korea, of travel content, and of course I'm actually working on my third book right now. This time I'm writing a travel guide for the whole country of South Korea. So that won't be done for quite some time because, of course, pandemic and for my location. So it's going to be a little hard to reach other locations that I'm going to talk about in the book. But stay tuned for that. It'll probably be out within the next few years. I can't make guarantees, but once it's out, I'll let y'all know. So if you want to support my content, support my work, please check out these books. And if you know somebody who loves travel, who loves to read, check out the books too.
Okay, man. Once again, appreciate you coming on, man. Hey, Wakanda forever.
Yeah, Wakanda forever.
All right, bro. Have a good one, man.
All right, yeah. Thank you for having me on.